Hey, Bobby Rio here, and why are some guys naturally attractive? Why are women drawn to specific types of guys, and can you transform into that guy? That's what Jon Sinn is going to be covering in this hour-long exclusive seminar. Now, this seminar is something that Jon had previously charged for, but I convinced him to allow me to release it to my YouTube channel because I know you're going to find the information in here really, really awesome. Jon's going to break down the 4 elements of an attractive man, and he's going to show you examples of how you can incorporate each element into your own life. Like I said, this was a seminar that guys paid close to $500 to attend. Previously, Jon sold this as a DVD program, but I'm now releasing it on my YouTube channel, so make sure you watch this. Now, 2 things. 1, if you like this seminar, make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be bringing other exclusive, previously sold content to my channel. And 2, if you find Jon's advice helpful, Jon and I are doing an exclusive online workshop. We're going to be holding it about twice a week over the next few weeks. It's called 4 Steps to Becoming a Sexual Closer, where we're going to break down exactly what you need to do to go from meeting someone to closing the deal. Now, there's a couple sessions available. The workshop's completely free, and you can register now at tsbmag.com/closer. Now let's jump into the seminar because Jon has a lot to cover. Like I said, it's about an hour long, and you're going to want to take notes.
So today we're going to be talking about my new attraction system, which I affectionately call Swagger. So what the whole point of this program is it's going to be defining natural attraction, because in the kind of dating science community, you have 2 very set and different schools, right? You have the very routine-based guys, and then you have the guys who are like, just be yourself, be confident. And in my opinion, the real power comes from being somewhere within the 2 of them. Like, the reason that routines work is because they hit a certain set of characteristics. There are underlying mechanisms that make everything work. Everything that's ever worked with meeting women, be it, using games, routines, neg hits, cocky funny, any of the tactics, they work not because there's anything magical about the lines themselves or what you're saying, but they work because they paint a picture of the type of guy that is attractive to women. So this whole program is going to be about understanding the underlying mechanisms that drive that. So let me talk a little bit about my kind of experience with game and attraction in general. When I started, I was very, very dogmatic about mystery method because that was where I got the majority of my success in the beginning. And so to me, everything that wasn't mystery method was wrong, because when I wasn't doing mystery method, I wasn't getting laid, and when I was doing mystery method, I was getting laid. But the problem came a little bit later on, where I started to kind of see some bad results. Not in terms of how many girls I could pick up, but in terms of how burned out I was on game. And the problem was I couldn't say the same things over and over again. Now, there are certain guys out there who can go out and run the same lines and the same routines and everything week in and week out and be totally fine with it. It never gets boring or old to them. But I wasn't one of those guys. And I think most guys who get into that don't want to be that guy. They want to be someone who has become a more dynamic personality. The 2 ways to get women, in my opinion, are to become an amazing manipulator, which I did for years. I had lines and routines and contingencies for everything possibly imagined. There wasn't anything a girl could say to me that, could throw me off, and I could go for literally 8 hours straight. I had 8 hours of material that I could just shoot off at will. But it wasn't making me happy, and after a while it just stopped working because I couldn't muster the enthusiasm to make it work. If I don't care about what I'm saying, there's no way to make a girl or a group of girls care about what I was saying. So I started to look at beyond the routines and beyond the games and tests and all that stuff that we had. What were the things that really drove attraction? What were the things that all these guys had? I actually went out with a lot of naturals for a while as well, because I wanted to understand what it was that these guys that were doing that allowed them to break all of the rules that we seem to be governed by. And so from this, I created a system called Swagger. And the reason I call it Swagger is because one of the best naturals I've ever met is a guy named Big Z, who's a real-life pimp out in Las Vegas that I met through just going out and meeting people. And we were talking one night. I actually invited him to come see my seminar in Vegas. And he sat in the back of the room and he was like, yes, man, yes, this is what I'm talking about. He's like, you get it. And I was like, okay. And he's like, the swagger. And I was like, what the fuck is the swagger? And he's like, the swagger is like what you gotta have. And I was like, okay, that's like a cool sounding word. And it really does describe the kind of confidence and belief in yourself that you need to have to be successful with women. Guys that are good with women naturally have a swagger to them. They believe that they are the best possible option for that girl, and that the girl would be stupid not to be with them. So I started getting really, really obsessive as to what the underlying frames and underlying things that drive attraction are. And today, for the first time, I'm going to reveal my 4-step model to natural attraction. There's 4 separate things plus 5 frames that lead to attraction. So we're going to get into that in a second. The first thing, though, that I want to talk about is the idea of acting as if. A lot of guys come into boot camp, and I recommend doing some highly arrogant, cocky things, right? And guys are like, well, that wasn't me, or that wouldn't be me. And so the first thing I want everyone to do who's watching this program is I want you to take a minute and a half sheet of paper and write down what your ideal version of yourself with women is. How would you act if? How would you act if you didn't have approach anxiety? How would you act if you weren't intimidated to talk to beautiful women? How would you act if you knew that every girl liked you? How would you act if you knew that being with you was the best possible choice that any girl could make? How would you act if you really were the man with women and you could have your choice of any woman you wanted? Right? All of these questions are things to describe and write down for yourself because it gives you a picture and a goal. Right? I'm a big believer in goals because goals allow you to focus and they allow you to take steps. Right? Anything that you ever will do in life starts with an ideal first. If you look at architecture, architecture is a great kind of corollary to game. Because architects, they don't start with the mortar and the stuff that builds the building. They start with the idea of the building, right? What it's going to be, what it's going to look like, how it's going to be built, and then they build backwards. And that's what you want to do with your game and your personality that you bring out around women. So you start with the end in mind. You start with being the confident, fun, playful, whatever guy that you ultimately want to be. And then you build backwards to allow yourself to become that and to learn ways of expressing what needs to be expressed in order for women to be attracted. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the frames of attraction. Attraction has 5 frames. Comfort has 5 frames. Seduction has 5 frames. These are underlying meanings that need to happen to make someone attracted to you. And the frame is just the underlying meaning of the interaction, right? If you think about it, it's like a picture frame goes around the thing. It doesn't influence it, but it's what keeps it there. So when 2 people are interacting, only one frame can be correct, right? And the stronger frame will absorb the weaker frame consistently. So by consistently defining the meaning of the interaction, you set the stage, as my friend Shaft likes to call it, right? By defining your behaviors as this, you now give her something to react to. Because whenever 2 people are interacting, one is emotionally reactive, and the person who's emotionally reactive has less social power. That is a out-and-out rule about the game. My favorite way of describing that is if you're walking down the street, right, and some crazy person from across the street through a crowded street is like, I'm going to kill you. You're not really worried about it, right? He's too far away for it to be an immediate threat to your survival. There's not really anything to worry about. Now, if that guy's in your face and wielding a knife, all of a sudden you have a completely different interpretation of the situation because it becomes real, right? And you now have an emotional reaction. The same thing happens with girls. If you think about, walking up to the girl of your dreams and having her tell you to fuck off, you probably all have an emotional reaction to that. Now, imagine if you were talking to a 6-year-old girl and she told you to fuck off. Now, all of a sudden, it's just kind of cute and funny. Why? Because the frame is what influences it. It's the same behavior, but the frame is the value and the underlying meanings that you put on that. When a girl rejects you, you look at it as your last chance with a girl, maybe your last chance with any girls, maybe she's the one girl that you want to have, et cetera, et cetera. And so it becomes a different thing to interpret, and that interpretation becomes negative. So the frames that we want to set in attraction are we want to keep it light. So the first frame is attraction is playful. Attraction does not take itself too seriously. Attraction is not the time to discuss the differences between Tolstoy's early work and his late work. It's not the time to start talking about, your depressing things that happened to you in your life. It's not the time to be vulnerable. It's not the time to be too deep. You'll see this in tactically when one of the tactics in the community is never giving women a straight answer. I think David D'Angelo was the first person to talk about that, right? You know, girl asks you what you do, you say, oh, I'm an ass model, or, you know, I'm a disposable lighter repair salesman, or I'm a lion tamer, right? Again, there's nothing particularly powerful about not giving a woman a straight answer, but what it does is it shows that you're not taking the interaction too seriously, and it demonstrates that you're playful. Same thing happens with teasing and negging girls, right? When you do both of those actions, you're showing the girl that you don't take it so seriously. You're not putting all of your eggs into the basket of having to make this social interaction work. Nothing turns a woman off more than a guy who's taking himself and life too seriously. Right? The movie Van Wilder has a great quote about that. It says, don't take life too seriously or you'll never get out alive. I really do believe in that, especially for attraction. You don't want to take it too seriously. You're the type of guy who meets so many girls that one girl rejecting you is not a big deal. It's not something you're going to go home and cry yourself to sleep while masturbating using your tears as lube, right? All right, so that's playful. Second one, fun. Fun is the ultimate attraction switch. Having fun and having balls will get you 90% of the way with women, right? And what is fun? It's emotional stimulation. It's good. It's a constant stream of good emotions. We're going to get into fun even more in detail because fun is one of the characteristics that you have to be able to show women. And I'll tell you how I came to the idea of fun, right? A lot is made in the community of value. Not a lot is made in the community of fun. And the reason I think is because it's a lot easier to explain value. Fun is a much more ephemeral, hard to explain thing, right? So people say, well, you know, she saw you were pre-selected and then you got the girl. But really, it could just be that she was enjoying herself and she wasn't really paying attention to your little story. My experience with fun came back when I was dogmatic, back in like 2005, 2006. I was out in Central Park with my buddy Future, who used to teach for Mystery Method. And we were talking to these girls, and he was doing, in my opinion, everything wrong, right? He was making sexual comments right away. He was like asking her if she was single. He was like hitting on her. He was doing all of these things that were bad game, in my opinion, right? And then the girl kept wanting to hang out and kept wanting to hang out, kept wanting to hang out. And I was just like, it was actually like fucking with my head. I can remember to this moment where I was and how exactly I felt, because it was like blowing my mind that he could be making all of these mistakes and yet the girl still wanted to hang out with him. And afterwards we were talking about it, and he was like, she was having fun. And I was like, okay, but there wasn't any value. You were low value. Like, how is she having fun if you're low value? Girls can only have fun with high value guys. And he was like, no, dude, that's completely wrong. And I thought about it, and I was like, you're right. If a girl's having fun with you, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Think about it. If you go out to a bar or club, and you're talking to a girl, and there's a million other distractions going around, her friends that she has infinite more investment with, but she's having fun with you, she stays, right? I've seen this in my own life hundreds and hundreds of times. Times where a girl's having fun with me, and you know, she's out with her girlfriend, and then about midnight, 12:30 rolls around, and the friend's like, well, I'm going to go home, and she's like, well, I'm still having fun, so I'm going to stay. And I end up getting laid those nights, right? What happens? She's enjoying herself. Enjoyment and good emotions. Fun. Really, really important. Third, indifference. Indifference. We talked about this a little bit before. What does it mean to be indifferent? It means that you're not attached to the outcome. It means that you're not taking things seriously, and you're not too attached to making something happen. One of the problems that guys get into when they get into game is that they start becoming reaction seeking. The first time you go out and you use like a neg, or you use a cocky funny comment, or you tell a great story and the girls laugh and giggle and touch you, it feels really good, right? Especially if you don't get a lot of attention from women. You're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I used to be an attraction junkie. Like, I used to be like addicted to the good responses. Like, I would sit there. A lot of my early success in game came from the fact that I'm pretty funny naturally. And so I would just laugh girls' pants off. Like, I wasn't doing anything right, but I was just making them laugh, making them laugh, making them laugh, and then haphazardly escalating. And sometimes it would work, right? Because I could just keep them laughing. So the idea was that once I started learning game, it was harder and harder to do that, because all of a sudden I was trying to get a specific good reaction. I was like pushing the button. And one of the things that I always noticed with tactical game, especially with David D'Angelo's like cocky funny stuff, is what it is it's like a glitch in the social matrix, right? Like you make a cocky, funny comment and the girl laughs and hits you, right? And then she's like, oh, you jerk. And then you do it again. And this time she just laughs, right? And then the next time she just smiles. And then after a while she realizes that you've just found a little button that you're pushing and that you're not actually cool. You've just found a little glitch. And eventually the reactions completely stop. Why? Because you're demonstrating that you really care about getting her to like you, right? Guys who really have a lot of women, guys that are attractive and can get girls whenever they want, they don't care about getting any one specific girl. I would even go so far as to say that if you care about getting one specific girl, even if it's for a night, you've already fucked yourself because you've put too much value on it and now you're committed. And so you're going to make bad decisions. I actually one of the things that was really helpful for me with the idea of indifference came from my buddy Brad P. We were talking one day and he said, what we do is very different. And I was like, well, what do you mean? We both, go out and try to fuck chicks. Like, that doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of variance from one degree to the other of that. And he's like, no. He's like, you really care if every set opens. And I was like, yeah, if you're good, every set should open. And he was like, no. He's like, look, if you get blown out 9 times out of 10 approaches and you go 1 for 10, you still get laid every night. And I was like, wait, that's true. And where that comes into play is in same night lays, a lot of the time you'll get fucked logistical situations. And the difference between getting laid and not getting laid is staying in that logistical set even though you know it's not going to go anywhere. So now what I do is I screen for logistics right away. How did the girl get there? Who's she with? What does she have to do tomorrow morning? Right? Because if those 3 things aren't lining up, then I don't want to waste my time. I'll get a phone number and I'll follow up later. But I'm not going to sit there and waste my time because my goal is to get laid every night I go out. So you have to be willing to cut bait. Like me and a friend of mine were just in the Gold Coast over the weekend, and we were talking to these 2 girls, and one of the girls actually got really drunk and was passing out in the bar. And my set was really on. The girl was super hot. I had my hands up her dress. But we kept trying to get the friend in a cab, and eventually they do lockouts at 3 a.m. where you can't get into any other club. So I had a decision to make. My decision is I can stay here and, maybe 40% chance of getting laid once she gets this chick in a cab and then, she still wants to party, if she still wants to party, and we don't get locked out of everywhere. Or I can go meet new girls, right? What do? I go meet new girls. Why? Because there's always another girl. There's no particular girl that is ever going to be 100% for you, I don't believe in the idea of the one, right? I think that different people are right for you at different points in your life, and I think that helps me a lot with my indifference. And I'll tell you guys a real quick story of how I came to that belief. You guys ever watch that show True Life on MTV? Where they follow the this is the real life of, you think you know, but you have no idea. Well, they did one on Korn, the band Korn, and the guy who's the lead singer of Korn is a guy named Jonathan, also. He has an H in his name, though, so he's less cool. And he had this girlfriend who was just super hot, super smoking hot, and gothic, burlesque dancer looking, awesome. And you know how when you watch celebrity couples interact, you can tell which ones are just kind of lukewarm for each other and which ones really actually like each other despite the fact that they're celebrities? Well, this was one of the second ones. You could just tell that they really got each other and understood each other at a really deep level and loved each other. And I thought, if that guy wasn't famous, he would have no chance with that girl, right? She would just blow him off. But now that they're together, they have this amazing relationship. And so if that guy wasn't famous, he'd probably be, hooking up with some girl who was fat and worked at Hot Topic, right? Just truth of the matter is that another girl with that personality would have come along, but she wouldn't have looked like that, right? So you can be equally happy with a lot of people. And so it's very important that you don't ever get too attached to one particular set or getting a specific outcome any night you go out. I'm not one of those guys. I probably get more same night lays than anyone else in the seduction community. I average 50 a year. And I would say I never go out with the oh, I'm going to get laid tonight. I go out and I'm like, yes, drinking, fun. Get to drink, get to go out and talk to people, fun. That's my only purpose for the night. I'm not attached to making something happen. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, no big deal, right? Unattached from the outcome. 3, flirty. Flirting is fun. Flirting is nice. It's something girls want to do. Women want to get hit on. They do not spend 3 hours getting dressed up and doing their makeup and putting on their push-up bras and putting on their dresses to go out and have everyone ignore them. They want to be flirted with.
Hey, Bobby Rio here with a quick intermission, and then we'll get back to the seminar. So I wanted to tell you that if you're enjoying this, you want to make sure that you join Jon Sinn and I for an online workshop that we're going to be doing a couple times called 4 Simple Steps to Becoming a Sexual Closer and Get More Hot Girls into Bed and Avoid the Friend Zone for Good, where Jon is going to break down his 4 steps in a step-by-step method for closing the deal and transforming into what we refer to as a sexual closer. You can register for this special free online workshop at tsbmag.com/closer. Now let's get back into the seminar.
But flirting is fun and teasing. It's not just coming on to a girl nonstop, but it is making it known that you are interested in her and that you're interested in her as a man is interested in a woman, not as a friend who needs a shopping buddy or as, someone who's going to give her like deep psychic advice. It's flirting, it's showing her you like her, showing her that you guys have fun together, and that you are interested in having sex with her. 4, social. Being in an attraction frame is a social frame. You're a social butterfly. You're interested in meeting everybody. You're talking to everyone. You're not trying to get anything from anyone. You're just bringing value, and you're enjoying the art of socializing and the other experience of meeting new and different people, right? So those are the 5 frames that drive attraction, right? Now the next thing I want to do is I want to introduce my 4-step system, right? My 4-step system, I broke it down. I took like the routines manual and I broke down like every routine. I looked through all of them and I was like, okay, what are the underlying mechanisms in each one of these routines? And a lot of the things you've heard before in hyperbole or like this, that, or the other, but I want to explain each of these concepts in depth because these are the things that make a man attractive to women. So the 4 steps are confident, interesting, masculine, and fun. Every attractive characteristic can be categorized in one of those 4 places, right? Confidence, interesting, masculine, fun. So one of the things that I really believe in is that you want to become someone who's attractive to women. You don't want to be someone who attracts women. You want to be someone who is attractive, right? Someone that a girl would be stupid not to want to be with. So what you want to do is you want to internalize each one of these habits, and there's like 5 or 6 different things and different tactics that I'm going to give you guys for internalizing all of these things so that when you interact with women, you don't have to think about what am I going to say, you have to think about what am I going to be, right? Because we're not human doings, we're human beings. So let's start with masculinity, because I think that's where a lot of this stuff starts. So we live in a culture that is largely being demasculinized. And there's 2 basic reasons for that, as per my research. The first one came in the 1700s. It was a little something called the Industrial Revolution, right? What happened before the 1700s? Well, most dads worked around the family. They had blacksmitheries, they had little family businesses, and they spent a lot of time with the kids. So you spent a great deal of time in the presence of your father, learning a trade, learning a skill, learning what it's like to be around a masculine presence. Then, what happened when factories opened up and the Industrial Revolution happened was all of a sudden, dad goes into the city for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours a day, comes home, is exhausted, goes to bed. And all of a sudden, men started being raised not by other men, but by women, right? And you will not find a bigger fan of women than me on the entire planet. But the one thing a woman cannot do is teach you how to be a man. They just don't know. It's not in their nature. So you now have a different familial structure. So now, instead of spending time with your father, instead of going hunting, instead of going fishing, instead of indulging in all of these kind of masculine energies, and again, I'm not a big energy and woo-woo person, but I do definitely believe that there are differences between men and women, and we'll get into that in a second. And so the more you expose yourself to one, the more you tend to slant your polarity towards that way. Now, as men, we're going to have hormones and we're going to have emotional drives and instinctual things that are going to lead us to be masculine, right? Part of that is having unpleasant thoughts, right? As a man, you have to come to grips with the fact that your biology is going to lead you to a place where you will think about killing someone, you will think about raping someone at some point in your life. It's just instinctually hardwired into all men from thousands and thousands of years of evolution. So that's the kind of dark side of being a man. But there's also the light side as well, right? And we'll get into that in a second. So you had the Industrial Revolution. Now we've got men being a little more feminine, right? Not a huge amount, because it was still very strict and puritanical in terms of the time. Then a little something comes along in the 1960s called what? The feminist movement. And the feminist movement took a great idea, right? They took the idea that men and women are equal, which I think is great. I think men and women are equal. There's no reason that you should say a woman or a man is less good than another woman or another man, right? We are equal. We have the exact same capacity to do good, the same capacity to do bad. There's nothing in your gender that's going to instinctually make you a better or worse person. But they confused that very good idea with a very dangerous idea. And the very dangerous idea is that men and women are the same. Because men and women, while being equal, are not the same. Men and women have different biology, different hormones, different instincts, different drives, and different polarities, right? There's a masculine polarity and a feminine polarity, and it comes down to two basic differences, right? What is the basic difference? If I could sum all of this up in 2 words, I would say it's purpose versus relationships. Men as a whole, I don't like to speak in absolutes about anything because there are some very purpose-driven women out there. As a whole, men are more attracted to purpose and challenge and striving to be the best and overcome obstacles. Women are more attracted to relationships and nurturing and growing families and all sorts of social things, right? Now, again, neither one is better, but they're not the same, right? And so instinctually and at an emotional level, men are going to be more attracted towards achievement and the corporate structure and breaking through. If you look at the things that men enjoy, right? You look at the game of football, right? The goal is to break away from the opponent and score. If you look at competition of any side, sports, right? Fast driving, drinking beer, all of these things come into the idea of achievement and purpose. You look at the things women are interested in. They're more relationships, they're more social, they're more things of aligning in hierarchies and this, that, or the other. So again, not worse or better, but not the same. So as a man, one of the most important things you can do is demonstrate a purpose. Women respond to men who have a purpose. It's been written many times before that the best way to pick up women is to have something better to do than picking up women, right? It's the reason why, guys like Richard Branson never have problems getting laid. If you have an overwhelming drive, you will get girls because women are attracted to that. Women want to be kind of the swirling emotional sea around the rock. And the mistake that most guys make is they don't have that purpose. They let the woman become their purpose, right? They bounce around her and let her make the decisions, and it turns her off because it's not in her nature. So demonstrating a purpose, how can you do that tactically, right? Well, you talk about it. You have a passion. Passion and fun are like the winning combination for getting girls. If you have a passion and you're fun, you have 90% of what you need at that point. So having something to do, having a life purpose, right? What is it that you would want to do if you could do anything in the world with no chance of failure? Start talking about that. Start trying to make things happen in your life, right? Next year I'll be living in 12 cities over 12 months because I'm writing a book because I'm sick of telling people I'm a writer when all I do is write a fucking internet blog on seduction and newsletters and books on seduction, right? So have a purpose. Right? How can you talk about this? Grounding routines. If you look at Mystery Method, your grounding routine. If you look at El Topo's Red Stack, grounding your personality. That's how you demonstrate a purpose, what you're all about. All right, next thing. Leading. Leading is a really, really important part of this. If I had to teach one skill, just one, if someone came up to me and they were like, John, you've got 1 minute to talk to people about the most important thing for getting girls, I would say learn to lead. Right? Learn to lead, because there's so many levels on which you have to lead. Women are not by nature aggressive. They're not by nature going to make moves. They're not by nature going to be decisive and make decisions. It's just not in their overall makeup. Now, does that mean no girls do that? Of course not. But by general, girls are going to be more attractive if they're coming along rather than if they're making the decision. So you look at leading. Where does that come into your tactics and techniques, right? It comes in a couple different places. Leading the conversation, right? You're talking, and conversational subject that doesn't help you comes up, you ignore it or you talk over it, right? Leading physically, touching escalation. You can't just not touch the girl and hope that you're going to get her in the bedroom and be like, here's the cock, right? Time to fuck. It's not going to work like that. You have to be the one who takes responsibility for the interaction. I do this all the time. When I tell girls I'm hitting on them and I'm trying to get them in their pants, I'm leading the interaction. I'm showing them that I take all responsibility for the escalation. She can say no as much as she wants, but I'm going to keep trying, you know? Doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm not going to ever make her uncomfortable, but I'm going to keep pushing, right? Because that's what men are supposed to do. Next, maturity. Maturity is a big thing, right? Maturity is one of those things that it comes with time, but there's one general shift that comes with maturity that I've seen in a lot of different books. Like, I got really obsessed with the whole nature of being a man and like all of these ideas. I read book after book after book, and every one of them said the same thing about maturity. Every one of them said that maturity comes when you make the shift from caring about your own well-being to caring about the well-being of others. Now, if you look at some other methods, that correlates very strongly to something that Mystery likes to call protector of loved ones, right? Once you become mature and you care more about other people than you do about yourself, you naturally emit that protector of loved ones vibe. Now, is it the fact that you're telling a story about how you beat up some guy who tried to hurt your niece? No, it's the overall underlying mechanism that you're saying, I am a mature person because I've made that switch from boy thinking to man thinking, right? There's a great book called Warrior, King, Magician, Lover that talks all about the different types of boy and man thinking. But making that switch to caring more about other people is an attractive characteristic. All right, let's talk about strength. Strength. Now, obviously, when I'm talking about strength, I'm not talking physical strength, right? You can't just be like you can't just walk up to a girl and lift her over your head and think that you're going to get attraction. Now, that does get girls more attractive, but there's another reason for that. So, where does your strength come in? Your strength comes in your drawing of personal boundaries and your handling of congruence tests, right? Your general idea of, do you stand up for yourself? Do you let people push you around? So, for example, women are always going to test you. Like, it's always going to happen. It's a good thing. In fact, my whole same night lay game is built on constructing and then passing a series of sexual congruence tests, right? When I tell a girl, I'm trying to get in her pants, and she goes, it's not going to work, and I go, well, we'll see, I'm very charming. And I keep talking, and I don't leave or get shaken at all. I gain value. I gain attraction just from doing that, right? And I gain sexual attraction, which is even better. But showing strength. So, for example, girls test you. What are some common tests that you guys think you get? Throw some out here. I know you got one.
Will you buy me a drink?
Are you buying me a drink, right? So there's three different, generally the formula for handling tests is going to be agree, absurdify, change the subject. There's a three-part model for handling tests. Super simple. So a girl goes, are you going to buy me a drink? You go, oh yeah, totally. It's waiting for you at that other bar. Actually, while you're here, change the subject, right? Or, are you going to buy me a drink? Well, I don't buy bitches drinks, but if you make out with me, I will, right? Agree, absurdify, exaggerate, and change the subject. Let's get another test. Who's got one? Cool.
I've got a boyfriend.
I've got a boyfriend. Cool. That's great. We can just be friends. But, I mean, is he going to be mad that I'm trying to fuck you? Right? Agree, absurdify. All right, strength. The other place strength comes in is drawing personal boundaries. How do you let people treat you? Right? Do you let people push you around, or do you stand up for yourself? Right? Now, that doesn't mean you have to go around being some like fight-starting jerk, but it could be something as simple as a girl asks you to hold a drink, and this happens a lot. Girls will be like, hold my drink, and I'll be like, right? I'm not going to just hold the drink when there's a table there, right? Doesn't have to be a big thing, but you show how you're going to be treated and how you're not going to be treated. You don't want to do this angry. You always want to do this playful and fun, right? You don't ever get mad. Why? Because you're emotionally unreactive, but we'll get to that later. All right, next, certainty. Certainty is a big thing. what does it mean to be certain? It means to have an unwavering belief in something, right? This is what happens when girls test you and you just smile and pass them, right? The whole idea of ignore things, it's because it demonstrates certainty, right? The girl's like, blah, 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 and you're just like, it's really bright in here. Keep talking. They go, what the hell? This guy's really confident. He's certain that I like him. In fact, hot girls will test you on this. This was, when I started to realize I was on the right track, was when I started gaming like really, really, really hot girls all the time. And I started to notice that they will do certain things to fuck with you on certain different characteristics. Like with certainty, every time you're gaming a super hot girl who knows she's hot in a bar or a club, she will stop giving you any positive attention for a little while. Now, that doesn't mean she's going to walk away. It doesn't mean she's going to backturn you. She's just going to go quiet and see if you drop in state, right? She's looking to see, does this guy freak out or does he believe I actually like him? And this will happen every single time. Every single time. It'll be going really well, going really well, going really well. You won't do anything wrong, and then all of a sudden it just kind of flatlines. And it'll only happen for about a minute or two, but she's looking to see, how does this guy react? Does he know that I like him, or is he insecure and thinking that, he's done something wrong? Every time. Because demonstrating that certainty, demonstrating that unwavering belief, that idea that you're not going to be shaken by things because you believe in yourself is extremely, extremely attractive. Certainty goes even further. You can make your approaches open better by believing they're going to approach better. Like, it's a weird thing. But if you really, and I've seen this in my own life, like sometimes I'll just get a feeling that I can sleep with a girl, like I'll just see her out of the corner of my eye and I'll be like, I can sleep with that girl tonight, and it always happens. There's something about that idea of certainty because it sets the expectations, and then all of your subcommunications follow through on that. So everything radiates off of you, and it radiates that this guy thinks he's the shit, and he's got something going on here. Certainty. Social dominance. Social dominance is a big one. Dominance is one of our monkey evolutionary left things. It's how we determine hierarchies. The dominant person in gorilla tribes gets 90% of the sex. You hear people talking about being an alpha male or all of that stuff. It's socially dominant. Do you control this conversation? Are you the center of attention? Right? Do other people look to you for approval? Right? Are people looking for your approval, or are you looking for other people's approval? Are you comfortable with yourself? Are you doing whatever you want to do and letting the chips fall where they may? Are you comfortable cutting people off, changing the conversational subject? All of these things that we teach as little tactics and techniques, they come under the idea of being socially dominant, being the dominant person in that social interaction, taking the lead, taking the high chair, right? Being the alpha male, whatever you want to call it. Calm. Calm, right? I have one of the first things that I ever came up with as a phrase when I was first learning game at like 18, 19 years old was I came up with the idea that cool people never run, right? Because I'd see all these people that I really admired, like Jay-Z or like Brad Pitt, and I'd be like, they never seem like they're in a hurry. They're always calm and relaxed. They're always under control. They're never trying to get anywhere too fast because they believe that other people are going to wait. So being calm and not freaking out is a huge part of this. One of the things that I see on every boot camp is students, they get things they don't understand, and then they freak the fuck out, right? They just don't know what to do, so they either don't do anything and they stand there looking like a retard, or they say some stupid shit, right? Like once I was teaching a student who's now actually an instructor with my company, but I'll never forget this because he was in a boot camp, right? And he was talking to these two super hot girls, one of whom was a porn star that I didn't recognize, but someone else did. And the girl's like, we want to buy you a shot we want to buy you a shot. And he's like, what, are you going to roofie it? You're just going to try to get in my pants? And the girl was like, yeah, never mind. Why? Because he didn't know what was going on. It was outside of his reality that these hot girls would want to buy him a shot. So he lost his shit. He was like, they must be fucking with me, right? They must be fucking with me because I'm not actually cool. So I'm going to lose my shit and I'm going to try to gain the upper hand again because I've lost something. When in reality, they were just being nice and it was on. So staying calm, staying on an even keel, right? When people talk about being non-reactive, when people talk about, being cool or chill, That's what they're talking about. They're talking about being calm, not rushing, not getting flustered, not allowing yourself to have an emotional reaction that you don't control. Comfortable. Comfortable is a big thing. Where does comfortable go in? It goes in comfortable leading, and it goes in comfortable body language. You don't make yourself uncomfortable to get people. One of the things we always talk about is assuming the confident position, right? So what that means is when you approach a group of girls, you want to be the center of attention and you want to be leaning back on something. You don't want to be standing on the outside. I used to call it hemorrhaging social value because you can almost just see it. When someone's standing on the outside of a group of girls and the girls are all like huddled together and it's obvious you're an outsider, you can have the best game in the world, but you're hemorrhaging social value because a cool guy would not be doing that, right? You're too desperate. You're too try-hard. Even if what you're saying is awesome, if you don't get that comfortable position and be the one who's the most comfortable, because that's the thing. The person who's moving less has more social power. The person who's in the most comfortable position has more social power. So we always want to make that idea that we're comfortable in our space and we're kind of controlling that as a whole, rather than being on the outside and allowing other people to dictate that. So comfortable body language, leaned back, relaxed, slow moving, not in a hurry, comfortable in our own skin. No nervous twitches, no insecurities, no tics, nothing like that, just comfortable. And the last one, we touched a little bit on this earlier, but that's polarities. Polarities are huge. One of the things that I notice, and actually my wing captain Jack pointed this out to me for the first time, is I speak very differently to men than I speak to women. I up the flirtiness with women, I up the facial expressions, and I become almost like coquettish. Whereas with guys, I'm just very serious and stone-faced. And he was like, yeah, he's like, it's actually good that you do that. He's like, because most guys, they talk to men the exact same way they talk to women. There should always be a slight sexual overtone to what you're saying to women. Jason, CJ, he always talks about that in terms of he gives this example of I love back massages, right? As women, women have a desire to please their man, right? They want to make their men happy. They want to control good emotions. Now, that goes to a point. After a while, you become needy and it becomes too much work for her to constantly keep you in a good state because you can't regulate your own state. But, for example, if I was talking to a group of guys, I would never be like, man, you know what I love, guys? Back massages. But if I say it to a girl, what's she going to say? She's going to go, oh, I give great massages. Why? Because it defines that masculine and feminine role. It plays to the polarities, right? That's a huge thing. Understanding and playing to the masculine versus feminine polarity and speaking to women in a different way you speak to men. Another thing I'll do is something which I call nonverbal indicators of interest, right? The same way that girls, when they flip their hair, when they bat their eyes, when they bite their lips, you go, oh, this girl likes me. The same thing happens when you do those things to girls, right? So you can use all of those things that you know how a girl likes you to show her that you like her and that you're interested in her. And that's something I'll do, but I'm not going to do it in a room full of guys because that's a little gay. All right, so that sums up masculine. You guys have an understanding of the masculine polarity, the kind of characteristics that show that you're a masculine man? Cool. Let's move on to fun. Fun. So fun was the hardest one for me to kind of quantify here because I was like, what the fuck is fun? How do you describe what fun is? But I think I did a pretty good job here. So the first thing with fun is it's playful. We talked a little bit about playful, not taking things too seriously, right? Teasing, funny stories, misinterpretations, right? Accusing girls of things, anything that's obvious that you're not being serious and you're just fucking with her. Second part of fun is being self-amusing. Being self-amusing is a huge part of attraction. All right, for certain companies, that's their entire method of attraction, is just go out and do things that amuse yourself. Why is it good to be self-amusing? Again, it subcommunicates a lot of things. You're indifferent, right? You don't care if they like your jokes. One time, I went out with another pickup artist, and we started opening girls by singing the Aladdin theme song, I Can Show You the World, right? On the surface, not the coolest way to start talking to girls, right? Not some James Bond shit that you're going to be like, man, I fucking got that. But it worked every time. Why? Because we're having fun with it. It's self-amusing. we're enjoying it, and after a while, people will start getting into it. Even if they don't know what the fuck you're doing, they just see that energy, that you don't care, that you don't give a fuck, right? How many guys in here have heard, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you? How do you implement that? You self-amuse, right? You don't care about anything other than your own enjoyment, right? If you're doing it and it's fun for you, then keep doing it, right? Sometimes I'll start singing in set, like I'll start like singing like fucking R. Kelly from Trapped in the Closet, like just in the middle of a set, just because it's funny to me, you know? Other times, I'll start talking about how I'm trying to be celibate, you know? Like, I'll just do things that are amusing to myself. We used to have this thing called Huge Cock Game. Huge Cock Game was a series of just talking about how big your dick was. And I would do that. I probably had like 50-some lays out of like all just after attraction, Huge Cock Game. I'd be like, hey, do you know what's 12 inches in white? Nothing, but I'm Latino and I got a huge cock, right? I'd be like, no, this isn't about my cock. So, you know my cock's so big, Kevin Federline wants to date it? No, it's so big it only plays arenas. It's actually like on a plane right now from California. Yeah, if you remember in 1970 when those paintings went missing from the Louvre, they weren't actually missing. They were in a small chamber in an air-conditioned wing in the west part of my cock, right? Again, is that cool? No, but girls would laugh at it because it wasn't anything sexual. It was just that I was amused by my own jokes. Now, self-amusement can go horribly wrong, and sometimes it does, but, you know, those are pretty fun situations anyway. Teasing. Teasing is part of fun, right? Girls love to get teased. They love it when they're 8 years old. They love it when they're 18 years old. They love it when they're 80 years old. Why? Because it's a form of communication that allows them to have a good emotional reaction while getting a little bit of ping. Right? It's a little bit of pleasure, a little bit of pain. If you know anything about, you know, BDSM, pain and pleasure are a pretty linked thing, right? If you look at girls, like whenever they're out by themselves, they'll be like, oh my God, you're such a slut, ah, ha, 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 right? They tease each other. Men, we don't do that though, because men are going to fight if they tease each other too much. Men have a little bit frailer egos. So you don't get used to teasing as a guy, because if you tease people too much, you get into fights. But teasing women is very, very important. So you look at all the lines. You look at cocky, funny, nags, right, banter lines. All of these things are there to sum up the idea of teasing. And what is teasing? It's poking fun at someone for something they're doing. Look, you don't need to go out and be a douchebag and like tease a girl for every single thing she does. I used to do that. That doesn't work. But if a girl does something that you would tease a dude for, tease her for it. Don't let girls get special treatment just for being hot. You can point fun at her, you can call her a dork, you can do all sorts of things like that, and it works. Teasing definitively works. Flirting. What is flirting? It's putting the agenda on the table. It's showing interest in a fun way. It's what I do when I tell girls I'm hitting on them or trying to get in their pants, or, you know, I tell them I'm going to fuck them in the ass in the bathroom. It's funny. It's not serious, right? I'm not sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I'm totally trying to get in your pants, and once you get outside, it's happening, right? But it's showing interest. It's when I say things like, oh my God, you know, I'm having trouble concentrating, because I'm really just thinking about kissing you right now, and that's inappropriate. So don't give me that thought, right? Bad. You know, flirting. Friendly. Friendly is good, right? It's good to be friendly. Ideally, you want to come off like the friendly drunk guy when you're approaching at bars and clubs at night. Because everybody likes the friendly drunk guy. He's nice, he's cheerful, he gives good emotions, he doesn't let things get too light. So don't be so concerned about value. One of the things you'll notice is value is nowhere on this chart. Why? Because value fucks you up. Because you get too in your head and you're like, you start micromanaging all of these things. You're like, wait, if I'm sitting in the front seat, then I have more value. So I should sit in the front seat when we pull up to meet these girls. Wait, no, I can't buy this girl a drink because I'll lose value. Fuck value. Be friendly. Brad P. talks about something he describes as the everyone loves everyone vibe, right? And that is the best description of friendly that I know. You're just happy to meet people. You're a people person. You like being around people. You like meeting people. You feel like new people always add something and that you can always find something good with everyone else. So you're happy to meet people. You're friendly and excited about it. Positivity. Positivity is a huge one. Huge. Especially if you like the top caliber women. because they just don't allow negativity into their lives. You'll see them in the clubs like pumping their own state, they're dancing on each other, they're grinding, they're screaming, they're doing shots. They don't allow negativity into their world. Now, there's a lot of theories on why positivity is better. You know, some people would say that positivity is like the emotional equivalent of big muscles, right? Because a girl sees a guy with big muscles, she goes, oh, that guy must be able to survive because he's strong. Girl sees a guy with a positive attitude, she goes, oh, that guy must be able to survive as well because anybody who's that positive has probably never had anything that bad happen to them. Same effect, just different result. So positivity, as someone who is a natural pessimist and, you know, dwelled with negativity for a long time, and I still battle with it from time to time. You know, I can be like a negative, pessimistic person from time to time. But positivity is huge. Everything's good. Everything's awesome. Just nothing but positive energy radiates from you. And people really pick up on that because you're more fun to be around. There's never a downer, right? Like people wonder like why stoners hang out together. It's because it's always cool when you're around a stoner because you have good energy, right? You're doing your little drugs together and you're happy, right? Well, you can do the same thing without drugs by being super positive. And one thing that really helped me was the Tony Robbins 7-Day Positivity Challenge. And what that is it's basically you take 7 days and you decide that you're only going to have positive thoughts, and if you have any negative thoughts, you have to reframe them within 2 minutes, or you have to start all the way over again from day one. Now, sounds pretty easy, right? Like, the first time I lasted for 2 hours because I got into LA traffic, and I was like, oh, this is going to be easy, fucking traffic. Okay, what's good about this? What can I learn here? What's the best use of my time? Fuck, I can't believe that guy's not letting me over. Fucked, done, right? Then I was doing workshops and like Future was fucking with me and like telling me he wasn't gonna teach any seminar and like trying to piss me off. Yeah, so it took me like 8 or 9 times to get through it. I got one time I got all the way to day 6 and had to restart. The idea of the positivity challenge is emotional states are addictive, right? Like cocaine in itself is not addictive, but what it does is it triggers a part of your brain that releases a chemical that's super addictive, right? So these emotional states are addictive. You meet someone who's really negative, and they actually become addicted to that negativity, right? So you'll tell them something positive, and they'll be like, oh yeah, that's cool, negative, right? Whereas you meet someone who's positive, and they'll be addicted to positivity. So the more you can identify those negative thought loops and break them, the easier it becomes to be a positive person, and the more positive you are, the more girls like being around you. It's really huge correlation there. And the last one, chill, relaxed, right? Not taking anything too fast, being relaxed, slow moving, not in a hurry, right? Very laid back. That one is a really big thing, and that's something that you can range, right? Like you can go out and have nights where you just speak really slowly, and you keep really slow eye contact, and you just slow everything down, and you're just chill and relaxed. And you'll see the effect that that has. And now that's not going to be for everyone. Like obviously I'm not a super chill person, right? Like I'm pretty energetic, I'm all over the place, and I've slowed down a lot. But everyone's gonna have a range for that, but there are definite key points where you need to be chill and relaxed. One of the ones that springs to mind is when you're pulling girls back from a bar or club, you need to be relaxed and chill with everything that's happening. Don't try to rush things, don't try to push things, don't get sucked into any of the bullshit that's gonna go down, because like the funny thing is, like people think pulls are like, oh, let's go back to my house, and then you just go. Like there's like a million things of bullshit that go down with pulls. 2 weekends ago, we were on a boot camp in Melbourne, and I had already fucked this girl down by the river. So it's a girl I've already fucked, like down by the river, out by Transport Bar. And we're trying to pull them back to the house. And the other guy, the other instructor, he's like running around. We can't catch a cab anywhere. We're like stuck. The girls are hungry. And I'm just completely relaxed with it because that's my element. You know, I'm just like, it's cool. Like there's food at the house. Relax. Everything's good. The other guy's like, no, we'll go to McDonald's. I'm like, no, you ain't going nowhere. Just chill, relax. All right, let's talk about interesting. Interesting. A lot of people, you know, they get really caught up in the inner game and they neglect the aspect that you have to be an interesting conversationalist. If you have masculine, fun, playful, and confidence, but you're not interesting, guess what? It's not going to work because what you're saying is not going to keep their attention long enough for them to notice the characteristics. So how do you be interesting? Number one, humor. You have to be funny. I wish that this wasn't true because it makes it seem like I have an unnatural advantage, which I do, but that's all right. I'm not 6'5", so I'll trade if anyone wants to trade. But you have to be funny. There's no one I've ever met who's good with girls who isn't funny. It's just a part of how it works. So how do you become more funny? Here's a couple suggestions. The first thing is just trying to make jokes, and I don't mean like knock-knock jokes, but trying to point out things that you think are funny. I do this all the time. Sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, right? But the fact that you keep trying to make jokes, you'll eventually start to get a better feel for humor. The second thing I recommend is improv class, because improv class makes you think on your feet. It makes you get used to trying to make people laugh in outrageous situations. It makes you a little bit better at performing in front of an audience. It really has a huge amount of benefits, and I always recommend this, and nobody ever takes it. So don't be the people who do that. Take the improv class. Another thing, watching professional comedians. You can actually steal professional comedians' bits if they're not very famous, word for word, and use them in set. I did that for a while, right? Because you get a sense of the pacing. Humor often comes from misdirection and unexpected things, right? The unexpected is often very humorous. And going too far is often very humorous. Now, humor will generally come from either a superior or an inferior position. The humor you want to use with women should come from a superior position as opposed to an inferior position. But that doesn't mean you should never make fun of yourself. I make fun of myself a fair amount because once you get to a certain level where women get that other girls like you, you need to show that you're kind of humble. So in the beginning, don't make fun of yourself, but as you get better and better reactions, you can use some self-deprecating humor. I used to have a pink mohawk. And one of my favorite things to say to girls back then was like, anytime one of them like would say something, I'd be like, well, whatever, I have a pink mohawk. What the hell do I know? Why are you even listening to me?
Hey, Bobby Rio here with a quick intermission, and then we'll get back to the seminar. So I wanted to tell you that if you're enjoying this, you want to make sure that you join Jon Sinn and I for an online workshop that we're going to be doing a couple times called 4 Simple Steps to Becoming a Sexual Closer and Get More Hot Girls into Bed and Avoid the Friend Zone for Good, where Jon is going to break down his 4 steps in a step-by-step method for closing the deal and transforming into what we refer to as a sexual closer. You can register for this special free online workshop at tsbmag.com/closer. Now let's get back into the seminar.
Right, you've just shown a bad characteristic. I still do this to this point. Now, my new favorite thing to do is I make fun of girls for liking me once it's on. I'm just like, oh, God, you've just fucked yourself. Like, you like me. You made a horrible decision here. This is not going to end well for you. Ugh, I feel bad for you. This is just, I'm going to ruin you for all other men. This is horrible. Humor. Role-playing. Role-playing is a great, fun little tactic, right? Role-playing is just a made-up scenario. Why? Because it's emotional stimulation. It allows a girl to get outside of the bar and club world where it's dude talking to chick trying to fuck her, which is the only underlying interaction in any bar or club. I'm sorry. And it allows you to play. It also gives you distance and objectivity. It allows you to do push-pulls. It allows you to do a whole bunch of things. So you can make these up. A great source for role-playing is fairy tales, you know? Sometimes I'll just go out nights and I'll know I need to do role playing. And I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna take you to a witch, and she's gonna put a spell under you where you have to go to sleep for 100 years, and then you'll let down your hair, and I'll climb up and rescue you with a soft kiss, and then we'll have to escape the dragons, right? Anything, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can role play about taking her on a romantic date. You can role play about her being your girlfriend for the next 5 minutes. You can role play about how you're going to dress her and her friend up in different costumes. But the idea that you do it takes you outside of those normal guys and puts you into a space of fun and interesting. It's something that doesn't happen a lot for her. Next, emotional stimulation. Emotional stimulation. So what does it mean to be emotionally stimulating? It means that you give women a wide range of emotions. When I used to teach attraction switches, one of the ones that I always taught that nobody else taught was the ability to take her on an emotional journey. And not all of those emotions are going to be positive, right? Sometimes you're going to give women bad emotions. Frustration. You're going to tease her to the point that she's frustrated. Jealousy. Jealousy is one of the most powerful emotions we have. If you're talking to a girl and it's going really well, and you walk away, and you talk to another girl, and it's going really well with the other girl too, guess what? That first girl is going to like you a lot more. Because jealousy is the most uncomfortable way to find out you want something, right? You go, what the fuck? Why am I feeling jealous? Oh, I like him. And now all of a sudden it's more on, right? But you're also going to take her through a range of emotions. The big problem guys make is they pigeonhole themselves. They're either fun party guy, or they're like deep intellectual artist guy, or they're like rich guy, or they're like asshole guy. And they don't have that full range of emotions. The more emotions you can give a girl, the more hooked she's going to be, and the more she's going to like being around you, because it's always interesting. Confusion, another emotion that, is not necessarily positive, but women love, right? But making sure that you go through that wide range of emotions, and that you're not just funny, and that you're not just sexual, and that you're not just this, that, or the other, but a wide range of emotions. Social proof. Social proof. Social proof is both something that you say and something that you do, right? When you mention an ex-girlfriend or an ex-fiance who was a model or an actress or a waitress, you get a better reaction. I have done the field work. It works a lot better when you mention that. If you roll in with more girls, you get a better reaction. That's the whole basis of my buddy AFC Adams' game, is rolling in with 100 girls, and then that does the work for him, right? But you can also use social proof with other things. You can use social proof by talking about people you know, right? You can use social proof by talking about how people treat you really well everywhere you go, right? You can use social proof by talking about how girls are always after you. All of these things create social proof, and social proof works, right? The ability to teach her something. The ability to teach her something. This is a big one. If you look at most of the attraction routines in the community, things like best friends tests, things like C's versus U's, things like eye-accessing cues or the cube, what do they all have in common? They're all teaching her something. And why is it attractive to teach her something? Because the roles are attractive. The teacher is always higher value than the student. You're always going to have more value when you're the one giving information, especially information that can help her to survive and have a better life, right? Why do you think girls, when they get together, they talk about hair and nails and makeup? It's because it makes them more attractive. It gives them an evolutionary benefit to exchange information about that in order to be better at that and help them get better guys. Right? So the ability to teach her something. And you don't have to teach her some bullshit little routine. Everyone has cool things they do that they could teach girls, right? I've taught girls a variety of things, from surfing to skateboarding to how to throw a spiral. It doesn't have to be interesting. It's the act of imparting that information that gets you the value, right? Cool. Sexy stereotypes and identity. Sexy stereotypes and identity. Fashion, what you do, and what you talk about, right? Who you are as a person. Too many guys are out there trying to reinvent the fucking wheel, right? I got really lucky in the last 2 years because I'm a writer, and a show called Californication hit the air, where Hank Moody, played by David Duchovny, has just made writer a sexy stereotype. All of a sudden, you say you're a writer, and it's like, oh, awesome. Whereas before that, it was like, oh, yeah, what do you do? Do you write screenplays? But now there's a sexy stereotype for it, right? Everyone has a sexy stereotype that they fit into. Some guys are rocker guys, some guys are rapper guys, some guys are business corporate guys, some guys are international men of leisure, some guys are dangerous guys. But there are all these stereotypes already out there created by Hollywood and the mainstream media that women are attracted to. They're all already out there. So instead of trying to reinvent that, fit yourself into one of those. Specifically, fit yourself into one of those that you see with the girls you want. If you see all the girls you want are wearing ripped jeans, have lip rings, tattoos, and wear hoodies, guess what? You start doing that. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Who you are is a fluid concept, but who you present yourself to be can really either hurt you or help you. You can make a great first impression when you walk up because you look like someone that she would hook up with or want to hook up with, or you can make a neutral first impression because you look like someone that she's not really interested in. The choice is yours. Furthermore, your identity, what you do for a living, what your passion, your purpose is, also helps your game, right? Do I talk to girls a lot about my writing? Does every girl know I'm a writer within 3 minutes? Do I get really mad when students come on my boot camp and they're firefighters and they don't tell women what they do? Yeah, really mad, right? So don't take anything out of your game. A lot of guys out there, they have this concept of like pure game in their head where they feel like they don't need to use their natural advantages. That's retarded. You're already trying to get laid the hardest way possible. Fuck making it harder. And the last one, grounding. Your grounding routine is basically your life story, because anytime you meet a new person, they need to know about the major experiences, people, and events in your life that have shaped you into who you are, right? So your grounding routine is something that you're going to talk about every time. And here's where you get into the whole routines versus no routines thing. Look, your life story is not a routine. If things actually happen to you, saying them again and again isn't bad. Right? Like, I have a friend who gets really cuntish when I start getting asked about my tattoo because he starts running other pieces of canned material because he thinks that my explanation is a routine. The line with reality blurs. You're always going to have the where did you go to college, where did you grow up, how many people are in your family conversations. So having a good structured idea of how to talk about that and shape it into the most attractive way possible is good. That's a good thing. All right, last one. Let's talk about confidence. What is confidence? To me, confidence comes down to one sentence, and that sentence is a belief in yourself and your ability to handle situations. Right? That's what confidence is. How do you build confidence? Well, my friend Debonair Dave came up with the algorithm for confidence, in my opinion. Confidence equals survival plus fear. You find things you're afraid of, you do them, and you survive, and you build confidence. The more you do something that scares you, the less scary it is every time. You know, how do people dive out of planes and teach people skydiving? Were they not scared the first time they dive out of a plane? Of course they were. But they did it and they survived, and they did it again and again and again. And eventually, it becomes something that's fun to you, right? So an unwavering belief in yourself. Now, confidence is a very hard to define thing for most people. And in the community, a lot is made of the place you come from, right? And so I actually spent probably 4 weeks reading books trying to figure out what this mythical, magical place you want to come from is. And that's what we're going to wrap today's program with. So I have discovered the place that you want to come from for confidence. It has 5 different parts. The first part is indifference. We talked about indifference already. I don't need to rehash it. Not being attached to the outcome, not trying to make things happen. Second part, willing to walk away, willing to leave, willing to give that setup. That's something that fucks guys over and over and over and over again. Because we dig in. You feel like, oh, I want this girl and she kind of likes me, so if I stay, I can make something happen. The truth of the matter is, it's almost always a better bet to walk away and come back later, especially if it's not going well. One of the things that I always notice that I talk about that most pickup artists don't like talking about is the fact that the sets go a lot better from midnight to 2 a.m. than they go from 10 to 12. Why is that? Well, there's a couple of things, right? First, 10 p.m., you're the first guy to approach her. She's kind of thinking someone better might come along, right? She's kind of like, all right, this guy's kind of cool, but there might be a cooler guy coming along later, right? Secondly, they're not drunk yet. Now, I'm not saying get girls drunk, but I'm definitely saying that as the drinking happens, the bar for how cool you have to be lowers a little bit. And lastly, she hasn't been hit on by anyone really lame yet, right? Any hot girl who goes out is going to get some dude who's just a complete douchebag, right? Like, she's going to get some guy who's like, check out my Rolex. Did I tell you that I could take you on a boat, little lady? Or some guy who's like, hey, come here. This bitch ain't going nowhere. Right? So one of the things that I always used to do, just because I was kind of a pussy, was I would open sets, and if it wasn't going anywhere, I'd walk away, and then I'd come back 2 hours later. And inadvertently, it was a good system, because I had inadvertently been doing takeaways, right? So now, something that I do, that I've disciplined myself to do, is 25 minutes in, once I have a phone number, and it's on a high point, I walk away from the girl, and I go talk to another girl in front of her. Why? Because I know it works better. Because she gets a combination of the fear of loss of me never coming back, plus a spike of jealousy from the fact that some other girl might want me. It creates a feeding frenzy. It's something that I do very consistently. It's something that when I started doing it, I was like, this is stupid. I'm leaving a girl who likes me. Why am I doing this? And now I'm just like, oh, takeaway time. Time to go walk away. You have to be willing to lose. You can't play to not lose. You have to play to win. And part of playing to win is being willing to walk away. Next thing, unreactive. What does it mean to be unreactive? It means that your emotions are not affected. No matter what they do, if they tell you to fuck off, you're still having fun, you're still having a good time. They tell you they love you and want to suck you off in a bathroom, you're like, yeah, that's cool too. You're emotionally unreactive. Now, does that mean unexpressive? No, it means unreactive. It means you're not letting your emotions and your responses be dictated by outside sources. Which leads us to our next place, which is, to me, the core, the two parts of being non-reactive. Right? People always talk about being non-reactive in the community, and they're like, you have to be non-reactive. And what is it? It's some like internet chat board rhetoric, right? It's be non-reactive, but no one ever fucking defines it. Well, I'm fucking defining it right now. Being non-reactive is two things. It comes down to being internally validated and not reaction seeking. That makes you unreactive, right? Internal validation means your validation comes from within you as opposed to their reactions, right? Doesn't matter. They don't have effect of your emotional state. You're in a good mood, you're in a good mood no matter what's happening. You're in a bad mood, you're in a bad mood no matter what's happening. Your validation does not come from a group of strangers in a bar thinking you're cool or thinking you're a fucking loser, right? Your happiness and your sense of self-worth, sense of self-esteem comes from within, and it generates outwardly, as opposed to drawing validation outwardly, right? You know, some guys, I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy who big emotional ups and downs, a yo-yo, right? Have a good week. You know, I had a month where I banged 16 girls once, and I was on top of the world for that entire month. And the next month I got like 2, and I was like, fuck this. It's like I thought I was good at this. This is bullshit, right? Now I'm just like, whatever, it's cool. And not reaction seeking, not trying to get anything from someone, not trying to make them like you, not trying to make them dislike you, not trying to get attention, not trying to get anything from them. Just being internally validated and doing what makes you happy, being non-reactive. And the last piece of confidence is something called sexual comfort. Sexual comfort is a big thing. A lot of guys are uncomfortable with sex. This manifests itself in an inability to escalate physically and an inability to talk about sex. There was a lay report I once read where this dude, he's actually in Dallas. He's actually a friend of mine. But I still got to douche him out here because this is the worst lay report ever. This dude had this girl come over to it. First he texts her. She texts him, right? She's like, I'm horny. And he's like, don't bother me with your personal problems. Right? Then she's like, I want to come over. And he's like, fine, I guess if you want to. Then she comes over with a friend, and they start like making threesome comments. And finally she starts blowing him, and he's like making fun of her blowjob while her friend is like sitting there watching. And I'm like, dude, like you could have had like a crazy stripper three-way, and instead you got a blowjob from a half-drunk chick. Why? Because he wasn't sexually comfortable. He wasn't comfortable being that guy who's gonna have a threesome. Guess what? It's fucking weird, right? But if that's what you want to do, you have to be comfortable with sex. You have to be comfortable having a sexual conversation. You have to be comfortable giving sexual indicators of interest. One of the things that I do with every girl I pick up is I say, at some point, I go, you know, if nobody was here right now, I would just bend you over the table and take care of business. Oh, stop giving me those thoughts, right? Why? Because I'm willing to demonstrate my sexuality. Not horniness, sexual comfort, right? The horny guy, he's pushing the sexuality, right? He's just like, sex, 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 sex. You know, and I've seen guys like this who turn every comment sexual, and after a while it's boring to the girl, and they just feel like you're desperate. But not being afraid to go sexual when the time is appropriate and to control that sexuality. And together, those 4 things build your attraction. If you can demonstrate that you're fun, being playful, self-amusing, teasing, flirting, friendly, positive, and chill, if you can show that you're masculine, meaning you recognize the differences in the sexes, right? You understand that men are purposeful, leading, mature, strong, certain, dominant, calm, comfortable, and you understand the difference between the polarities in men and women and how to interact with a woman as opposed to how to interact with a man. If you can be interesting, you can be funny, you can use role plays to be creative and show your interesting side. You can use social proof. You can be emotionally stimulating. You have something to teach her, right? You have a sexy stereotype and a sexy identity, and you have a sequence that explains how you got to be who you are. Combined with confidence, the belief in yourself, right? Coming from the right place. You're non-judgmental, you're indifferent, you're willing to walk away, you're unreactive, and unreactive being internally validated and not reaction-seeking, and you're sexually comfortable. you will get attraction the majority of the time. Not every time, because nothing works every time, but as close to every time as is possible in the real world comes down to these 4 things and their correlating factors, as well as the 5 attraction frame.
Hey guys, Bobby Rio here, and I want to quickly tell you about a live online workshop that myself and Jon Sinn do several times a week called 4 Simple Steps to Becoming a Sexual Closer and Get More Hot Girls into Bed and Avoid the Friend Zone for Good. In this live workshop, Jon breaks down his proven step-by-step method for making sure that when you go out on a date or when you meet a girl, you follow this little formula he has to get her into bed. Now, this is a live workshop that Jon and I do. We do it a couple times a week. So if you go to unlockherlegs.com/closer, you can see the next time we're going to be doing this workshop, and you can register for the event. Like I said, it's 100% free. It's actually live, and you're going to discover the 4 simple steps to becoming a sexual closer and get more hot girls into bed, avoid the friend zone for good, and learn Jon's proven step-by-step method. Go to unlockherlegs.com/closer and register your free spot right now.